So the Kyrie Irving situation now is a full-blown mess in Brooklyn. I never thought it would work, but this is not about me being right or wrong. He's not shown up for multiple games. He won't be here for the rest of the week. What it really fascinates me is notice Steve Nash, the coach, walking on eggshells. Notice the media walking on eggshells. The Brooklyn general manager, the commissioner walking on eggshells. There's videos, maskless, Kyrie. Last night on a political call, I don't like what happened in the Capitol either. We all got to go to work. Walking on eggshells. That, of course, is the basketball culture. Shoe companies, AAU coaches, the commissioner coddling, worshiping basketball stars. So, of course, they think they can just take time off and be bad teammates. Maybe we should stop babying narcissistic behavior. James Harden pointing fingers. Excuse me, Houston did a marvelous job to build a roster around you. 3 years ago, I thought it was the second best roster in the league. P.J. Tucker and Chris Paul and James Harden and Clint Capella. And they had a basketball coach built for you and a GM that was like an Ivy League guy. And James Harden couldn't make any of it work. He didn't want to play defense. He wouldn't change his style. And nobody ever said anything because, he's a basketball star. In the NFL, it's different. Antonio Brown was a bad teammate. He got destroyed by the NFL media. Look at how the Kyrie Irving situation is being handled. Everybody's afraid to call him out. Folks, he's a bad teammate. What example do you need beyond Boston, where the stories are legendary? I made one call last night for 3 minutes. Was told the stories in Boston are outrageous, but they don't want to make them public because then players won't want to come to Boston. I've been watching the NBA for 40 years. Boston always gets players. And every decade they win a title, it feels like. And then Kevin Durant, by the way, now he has a teammate that's bailed on him, which is just unfortunate because Kevin's a remarkable talent. But when Kevin left the Warriors, I said it at the time, would somebody stop him, please? Would somebody shake Kevin Durant? You're leaving Steph Curry, one of the most selfless superstars I've ever seen, to Kyrie Irving, who's a bad teammate. Did anybody tell Kevin, shoe company, agent, what are you doing? What are you doing? That would be like Patrick Mahomes saying, I want to go play for the Jags. No, you got Andy Reid. No, don't do that. People would step in. The commissioner would call him. Andy Reid would call him. Coaches would call him. His agent would call him. Shoe companies would call him. No, don't do that. But everybody coddled KD. The commissioner coddles the stars. The general managers, the coaches coddle the stars. NBA media is Charmin soft. This is the basketball culture. So, of course, Kyrie thinks I can just be a bad teammate and not show up. You don't do that in the NFL. There was an understanding you are going into battle. And Patrick Mahomes not only loves his teammates, he buys those offensive linemen riding lawnmowers and golf bags and Rolex watches and steak dinners because we're all in it together. And that's the culture of football in America. I need you and you need me. And the NBA culture for stars is I don't need anybody. It's fostered from AAU on. Shoe companies, basketball coaches. I mean, look at how Kyrie's situation. Nobody will say a word. We're all petrified to alienate the star player. Kevin Durant should still be in Golden State with Steph and Draymond and this terrific young talent, James Wiseman. And Clay would be back in a year. Oubre now is emerging. And Steve Kerr and Bob Myers. It's a wonderful basketball organization. And he left it. And nobody said, what are you doing? Can you imagine Josh Allen wanting to leave Buffalo? Can you imagine Patrick Mahomes saying, I'm out of here? There would be several obstacles. There would be a CBA that wouldn't allow it to happen. There would be people that would say, no, Patrick, don't implode your career. But people are petrified. This Houston situation, they gave him everything. Good God. I was looking the other day. I have it in my notes somewhere. Yeah, here was the roster 3 years ago in Houston. And by the way, they couldn't make it work. They had James Harden, Chris Paul, Clint Capella, Trevor Ariza, PJ Tucker, Eric Gordon, Gerald Green, and a guard-friendly coach. They went and got him Dwight Howard, CP3, Westbrook, Wall. It doesn't work because of Harden. It's not anybody. They had the GM. They had the coach. They had the roster. They had the forwards. They had the tough guys. They had the veteran Chris Paul. Harden didn't make it work. Nobody wants to say it. Nobody wants to call anybody out. But this is what you get. Listen, Shaq once chose D Wade over Kobe, right? And I didn't love that. But it was D Wade committed to basketball, and it was Pat Riley, and it was the Miami Heat who had a history of winning titles. So I was like, don't love it, but it is. The idea that KD chose Kyrie over Steph, inexplicable. Nobody stopped him. Nobody called him out. And this morning, it's just a mess for everybody. It's too bad. Let's not waste any time. Let's go to him live. He's on the East Coast. He's our Fox Sports NBA analyst. Chris Broussard is now joining me live. A crisis with Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets. Let me start with this. Everybody's walking on eggshells. I don't know what it is, but let me just ask you a pointed question. Does Kyrie want to play pro basketball anymore?
Look, Colin, I think that's the main question. That's what this boils down to. The evidence would tell you no. It looks like Kyrie Irving no longer wants to be a professional basketball player, and all that comes with being a pro. I was told, Colin, a few years ago, I think it was a few months before he and KD went to Brooklyn, by a couple of executives. We're just talking, and they told me, they said, don't be surprised if Kyrie Irving just shocks the world one day and decides to retire out of the blue. Now, they were speculating, but they were doing it based on his personality and the moves he's made in the NBA. Then in 2017, he was on the road tripping podcast with Channing Frye, his former teammate, and Kyrie said that one of his best friends has told him he will be the Lauryn Hill of basketball, meaning he'll retire before he's through with his prime. And then in June, about 6 weeks before they go into the bubble, remember what he said on this big call with all the other players, over 100 players. He said, I'm willing to give up everything for social justice and social reform. So I really think that Kyrie Irving, it seems like he no longer wants to be a professional basketball player. What the Nets have to do is get to the bottom of this as soon as possible. I'm sitting him down, talking to him on Zoom, whatever it takes, and I'm asking him that question pointedly. If he says no, he's going to retire. But if he says yes, I still want to be a pro player, I'm taking that. And then as soon as I'm done talking with him, I'm on the phone calling teams trying to trade him. Because you can't, I'm sorry, as great as he is, I can't trust him. Is this going to happen again? I can't trust him as my leader.
Kevin Durant, does it look like this morning he made a massive mistake leading a more selfless star in Steph Curry?
What KD did, and he would deny it, I believe, is that he let all of the talk, he let the narrative get to him. And that's one thing he didn't do when he went to Golden State. Remember, he didn't care about what people said. People were going to rip him for going to the Warriors, a 73-win team. He didn't care. He did what he wanted to do. I think, my opinion, is that he let all the talk about, they were cheap championships. There's an asterisk there. Anybody could have won those rings. And I was in that boat, too. I believe he was great, but, that team was stacked without him. I think he let that get to him and want to go somewhere else where it was his team and prove that he could win rings on his own. Again, I think he denied it, but I think that's the case. And here's the thing, Colin. KD, as great as he is not a leader. He's a follower. And he picked the wrong guy to follow. Kyrie's the leader of that team. You watch him on the court, Kyrie's more vocal. Kyrie's got the ball in his hands. Kyrie's determining who gets the last shots. You could tell. And he's the leader, but KD picked the wrong guy to follow.
James Harden, I actually think it works in Philadelphia. Ben Simmons trade kind of feels like it works. What is your gut feeling we see in the next, before the trade deadline with James Harden?
Well, you got to trade him. I mean, it can't drag out that long anymore. I thought it could because I thought Harden would have enough pride to go out and play at his best even though he wants out of Houston. I thought he want to get his 30 points a game. I thought he want to still be, play like one of the best players in the world. But he's tanked. I was wrong. He's out there playing at half speed and not being himself. So they have to trade him as soon as possible so they don't poison the locker room with his attitude and his apathy. There's reports coming out now that they're talking now with Brooklyn and Philadelphia. I'm with you. If I'm Philadelphia, see, Philly, don't play the long game. First of all, who knows how long Joel Embiid is going to be healthy and playing at this level, okay? Trade Ben Simmons for James Harden right now.
Yeah.
When you have a chance to win a championship in the NBA, you can't wait. You can't talk about the future. Go for it now. So they need to make that move. If I'm Brooklyn, now I don't think Houston would do this, but I'm offering Kyrie Irving for James Harden.
Yeah.
I don't think they do that, but that's where my conversation is starting.
Boy, how about Steve Nash? Steve Nash lived out here in L.A. on the beach, got a beautiful house, got a great life. He said, I'm going to go into coaching. Oh, my Lord. I mean, seriously, I look at that situation and I just think, I think you put it best. I think sometimes in life, who do you choose as your running mate? And I think some guys choose the wrong running mate. I mean, it's as simple as that, right? It's the way it works in basketball.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, we'll see how this plays out with the Nets. I don't know. I don't know when we're going to see Kyrie Irving on the court again. I think the challenge for the Nets is if you did try to trade him, he might just walk away from the game.
Yeah.
We don't know. And I don't think it's a mental health issue. I think Kyrie is different. And I think some of it's admirable. Like, he does, do a lot of charitable stuff that people don't give him credit for or talk about. I think he really is all in on the social justice fight. Here's what I would say to Kyrie, Colin. He can do more for social justice and reform as a superstar NBA player with all his fame and his platform and all of that than he can as just a rank and file activist out in the streets.
Yeah.
And then when you retire, you're only 35. So he'll be young enough to dedicate all of his time to the cause or whatever he wants to do. So I would say he needs to think about that because he does sincerely seem all in on the activism, which I like, but you have to keep the main thing. And his first thing is to be a professional basketball player.
Chris Broussard. Way to go. That's that soft, cushy NBA media. You came with a little attitude today. I appreciated that. Thank you, Chris. Nick Wright now joining us, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. All right, I said top of the show is that, Kyrie Irving, I don't think is committed totally to basketball, and I don't think he's a great teammate. But the basketball culture has been like, all right, we'll still pay a bunch of money, and you're the guy. And so I'm not shocked this has evaporated. I feel terrible for Kevin Durant, who's a remarkable talent. But your thoughts on what's happening in Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving?
Yeah, I don't know why everyone's walking on eggshells. I get why Steve Nash is, because Nash might one day again have to work with him. But I don't understand why, and maybe the dam broke this morning, why so few in the media had been willing to say what I think is pretty obvious. Listen, folks, I was 17 years old once, and I had a job at Foot Action. And I was supposed to go in, and I didn't because I went to a girls' high school soccer game because I thought this girl would date me. I no showed, no called. They called me and fired me the next day. I made $8.25 an hour. Kyrie Irving makes $420,000 a game, and Steve Nash hadn't heard from him. The hell are we talking about? Go to work. It's not, listen, trust me. If you are gravely haunted, disappointed, scared, all of the above and more by the insurrection at the United States Capitol, you and me too, you and me both, man. But you got to go to work. And if you are doing something bigger than basketball, you are undercutting it by showing up on the gram at your sister's 30th birthday, maskless in a pandemic, and 15 minutes before tip, you're on with the Sex and the City lady at the Manhattan District Attorney race. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
And one last thing. Durant now is going to play tonight. I don't know what the Nets' medical plan was, but I don't think it was Durant to play back-to-backs and 5 games in 7 days. before the Super Bowl. And now I feel like he has to because the Nets are not winning. I know they won last night, but they don't have the record they hoped they had, and Kyrie's not there.
Yeah.
So, again, go to work, or at least call your boss and say why you're not coming to work.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty basic.
You know, I didn't like Kevin Durant leaving the Warriors. I'm not jumping on the pile here. I said it a dozen times over the last year. Is if Patrick Mahomes would have said, I want out of here, there are literally several layers of protection. People would say, no. You're not going to do that. Kevin Durant, did anybody go to Kevin Durant? Steph Curry may have limitations defensively. He may be the most selfless teammate, certainly more selfless than a Michael Jordan or other stars. I mean, I look at Kevin Durant leaving and I'm like, Nick, was this an all-time bad decision?
Well, I think we got to see. If he wins a title with the Nets, then no. Then it is the ultimate crowning achievement of his career. If they get bounced in round 2 and trade Kyrie, and what I'm hearing is they are willing to trade anything and everything, including Kyrie, aside from Durant, of course, to get Harden. And now I think that would be pretty dynamic potentially. It also would be pretty explosive. And I do wonder if the new owner of the Nets, Joe Tsai, wants to risk repeating the same history Mikhail Prokhorov went through. Mikhail Prokhorov, right when he got there, now again, very different trade because of the age of players, but traded everything they had for KG and Pierce. They won one playoff series with them, and then they were stripped naked for 5 years, essentially, draft pick-wise.
Yeah.
You would be giving away all of your ability to improve the team moving forward to try to win a title right now. I get why KD did what he did. I understand, Colin, why he wanted to win a title outside of Golden State. I don't understand why, of all the guys he could have attached himself to, he picked Kyrie. He could have gone with Kawhi.
Yeah.
And then your Clippers pick wouldn't have looked so foolish. He could have gone with Kawhi with the Clippers.
Yeah, you're right.
And then that's a real championship contender. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Now, you have defended James Harden, but I think you've come around to my side a little in that I do think Houston built a really nice roster. Let's take the owner out of it. I think Mike D'Antoni's good for guards. I think Chris Paul, Dwight Howard 8 years ago, Clint Capella, P.J. Tucker. And it's always somebody else's fault. And now Harden's like, I did everything I did. I love the city. Fine. But isn't he culpable for some of this? It seems like, Nick,
of course,
they've bent over backwards for him for 6 years, 7 years.
And if he simply wanted a fresh start, it's like, man, my GM's gone. It's a new coach. I wish he would have given Steven Silas a chance. It's a new coach. Ownership has changed since I've been here, and that owner, I understand why a lot of people would have issues with him. That would be fine with me. There's a better way to go about it. James Harden, the first 3 games of the year, reminded everyone he's still one of the best players in the league, averaging 37 and 10. Then he took a night off, and then literally he took a night off. He was off. And then the last 5 games, he's figuratively taken a night off. He's at 20 points or less in 4 consecutive games. That hasn't happened since he was in Oklahoma City. And he's clearly, visibly, obviously out of shape.
Yeah.
So you got one of 2 options if you're Harden, like you're a Harden defender. Either he this quickly went past his prime and he's no longer a top 15 player in the league, or he's mailing it in, or he is actively not giving his best effort. I don't know what is the better option. I know what option I believe. I think it's the second option. And again, I don't think it's a way to conduct yourself. Like Anthony Davis demanded out of New Orleans after they had failed him for the better part of a decade. But when he played his hardest.
Yeah.
No one that's watched Harden thinks he's playing his hardest right now.
Yeah.